Good evening, everyone. Guys, I want to focus now on the Middle East and talk about the tensions that are brewing there. And, for those of you who've been watching this, these tensions have it's not just the past year, 2, 3 years. These tensions in the Middle East, it's a constant hotbed of tensions and wars and borders changing. I've spent probably, if you add it all up, adding the time I did with the military, I've probably spent over 5 years in the Middle East, mostly in Iraq, but also a fair amount of time in Syria. Now, I've done a lot of different jobs out there. I've worked for governments, embassies, NGOs, private companies, and the contrast between all these things is so different. For example, if you work for a private company, they're working hard, they're trying to hit bonuses, hit targets. If you're working for a government, an embassy, they don't really have a working to anyone's time because, they get paid regardless. So whether your diplomats go out and do lots of good stuff, they're still going to get paid the same amount. Also, I've worked for NGOs out there, and I think it was working for the NGOs out there in non-government organisations in northeast Syria. I think that was the most different time I've ever had, because normally I've worked for government, military, those type of people. Now, when you go and work for an NGO, it's a total different world. For example, we was in the NGO I was working with was in northeast Syria, right near the border with when the fighting was happening. And at night time, you could go up on the roof, you could watch the fighting. You could see the tracer going up in the air, you could see rockets being fired, explosions. And every Friday or Saturday, there was a rooftop bar on different villas, and you could go there and have a barbecue, drink some beers, and watch and literally watch the carnage unfold below you. It was a really surreal time for me in my life, and I think that was the I think that was the final. Yeah, I think that was when I decided this is not for me anymore. It was that time of my life. I came home. It was like an 18-hour road move. Well, it was 12-hour road move, 3-hour road move, then flights back to the UK. After doing all that, I went to pick my daughter up from school. She hardly recognised me. She changed, and I was just like, you know what, this is not for me anymore. But anyway, guys, the reason I'm telling you that is because I do have a fair amount of experience working in the Middle East. I know the people, I know the cultures, I know the differences, I know, I understand that part of the world. Yes, I've never worked in Israel, I've never worked in Iran, but, I have worked in that part of the world quite a lot. Oh yeah, I've spent a fair amount of time in Jordan as well, in Amman. But what I want to do now, guys, I want to focus just a little bit on what's been said recently in the Middle East. And I'm just going to frame this as recently because, if we keep going back to back, and we will, next thing will be 200-300 years ago, and we'll be saying what who invaded who. But, we're just going to say what's happened most recently. So, yeah, the Israeli officials have come out now and they've said that they expect that Hezbollah, which is the north of Israel, is going to attack Israel first. So if they're saying it, it kind of means it's going to happen. The Iranians, it seems to me the Iranians are holding back for some reason. Now, I don't know why. I don't know whether it's because of this, back in, I think it was September of last year, it might be September, autumn last year, there was, in fact, no. We'll go squad average, guys. Let's go with October. October last year in America, they passed a bill to say that the Iranians wouldn't, we can't allow, basically the US government passed a bill to say that they can't allow the Iranians to have fissionable materials to make a nuclear weapon. Now, I'm speculating that this bill has been used in some sort of strong arm to try and kind of get the Iranians not to strike Israel. But again, I don't know if this is going to happen. I don't know whether it's smoke and mirrors, whether the Americans are just pretending to put this force on, but we're all going to find out pretty soon what's happening. Now, If that happens, then all that's going to happen, in my experience, is the Iranians would fund Hezbollah further and they would fund Hamas further. So rather than Iran getting involved, full time and making it a real war with tanks and stuff, what they could do is, like they have been doing, but just on a bigger scale, fund Hezbollah to the north and Hamas further to the south. This thing's already happening, and it's really telling from Israel that Israel are now having to recruit Orthodox. In Israel, as I understand it, if you practice Orthodoxy and you become an Orthodox rabbi, I think that's the way it is, then you don't have to work, you're excluded from work, and all you do is study the religion, and you share that religion. This comes from the Second World War. After the Second World War, the Israelis, they said, right, okay, we need to preserve our religion, we need to preserve our culture, and we need to preserve our identity. So that's why it happened. The Orthodox, I think that's how it works, guys. I'm not 100% certain, but that's what I believe. Now, it's really telling that the Orthodox, the Orthodox Jews, they're having to be recruited now into the military. So that kind of says how short on manpower the Israelis are if they are having to do this. As well, you've got the United States ploughing lots and lots of assets into that region. Not President Trump, Donald Trump, it looks like he's going to be the next US president if he does get in, which, again, I can't see how that wouldn't happen. I'll come to that after. But Donald Trump looks like he's going to really defend Israel. He said that. So has JD Vance. He said that. Now, Kamala Harris, the reason I'm saying I don't see Donald Trump being able to win is because Kamala Harris has not had any... She's not done anything, really, has she? She's just been in the background while Joe Biden's been making a fool of himself. And then all of a sudden, within a couple of weeks, everybody's talking about how cool, was it Miss Harris, whatever it is, Kamala Harris, is it Kamala? Kamala Harris is in there saying all these good things about her, how awesome she is. But the reality is, I don't think rank and file Americans, I don't think they have any idea who she is, apart from this really, again, the smile that she has may not be annoying to Americans, but it's certainly annoying to me, and it just looks really fake when she's smiling and laughing at everything, and it just it doesn't wash with me. I don't think she'd be very competent. Equally, you've got to look around the world at the moment. Do you see her being able to go and have a one-on-one negotiation? Do you feel she could go and negotiate for prisoners of war with Putin? Do you think she could go in there and come out with a good deal? Do you think she could go and negotiate a peace deal with the Iranians? Look at all these these strong leaders around the world. Do you think she could go and, be credible with them? Because I've said this lots and lots of times on this channel and our other channel. It doesn't matter what your title is back home or what your credentials are back in your home country. You can be like David Lammy, for example. He's the Foreign Secretary in the United Kingdom. When he goes into a room and he sits down with these high-ranking Eastern European leaders, military attaches, foreign secretaries, people who are really, really savoury, he won't be able to command a presence in that room because that's just the type of person he is. Now, I'm going to say the same about Kamala Harris as well. She won't be able to provide that commanding the room presence that Donald Trump certainly has. When she goes into a room and she's trying to negotiate. And if that happens, she won't have any respect, she won't have any negotiating power, because you know what? These people don't care about their, whoever they're talking to, they care about them right there as a person, as a human being. And it's nothing to do with being a woman. I know lots of women who command that, who command that respect. So it's got nothing to do with that. But anyway, guys, that's what I think's happening there. So you can see that kind of, all this stuff building up with the United States sending more and more ships into that region. Again, the airbase in Cyprus, that's another key one, because although the ships are there, the airbase that's in Akrotiri, that allows troops to be flown directly from the US, from the UK, from anywhere in Europe. It gives them the opportunity to land, get off, be briefed, pick up kit and equipment, sort stores out, and then be redeployed. So that is another key area. Cyprus is another key area that nobody's talking about. Now, Hezbollah, they've already identified Cyprus as a target. Is it going to get hit? Will it get struck? Could it get struck? Well, yes to all three. Apart from, is it? We don't know. You know, the reality is it going to get struck? We don't know. Could it get struck? Yeah, it could get struck. It's well within range. What would be achieved if Hezbollah did strike the airfield at, the military locations in Cyprus? Well, I think they'd want to minimise the strike, but maximise the, what's the word I'm looking for? The devastation, in the sense that they would want to have a zero casualty rate, because there's no need to cause casualties there. What they would want to do is just totally destroy that airfield so it can't be used. Now, what people don't know is that with airfields, you get airfield technology. So alongside the airfield, you get patch-up material, because don't forget, you know, the West are not stupid, like the Russians are not stupid. The West understand that these airfields are targets. So they will have in buildings, in hangars, in and around that location, you know, suitable equipment to repair those runways, and that'll be done relatively quick. So this is what I'm talking about, guys, right? They might do it once and then say, look, if you repair it, we'll do it again, and then it becomes a game of chess. But that certainly is a target, Cyprus. Now, Israel has a lot of nuclear power stations. It has to have them, you know. It can't really depend on a supply of oil from any of its neighbouring countries. It's just not something that you know, Israel can do. So nuclear kind of is the only option for Israel, because just of its location and its political situation. So these nuclear power stations, these could also be targets, and you could have a situation where one of these nuclear power plants is targeted and it causes a huge Chernobyl incident around that area. Again, I don't know if that's going to happen. It will certainly be a target. Whether it's going to be hit or not, I don't know. So that's kind of, you know, a few of my considerations, what's happening in the Middle East at the moment. Now, I don't think Iran are not going to respond. You know, from, like I've said in my previous videos, if they don't respond, they will look weak on the domestic front. If they don't respond, they're going to look weak on a global front, and it's going to look like Israel can keep doing this and do whatever they want. So I don't really see that the Americans can put any pressure on the Iranians not to strike Israel. That's just how I see it at the moment, guys. And like I said, I have got a fair amount of experience working in that part of the world. Let me just read you a couple of the headlines here, guys. Just a few little things to what the mainstream are reporting on. So we've got the US airbase also that was attacked in Al-Assad. I think Al-Assad. Yeah. So the Al-Assad airbase is west of Baghdad. Again, I didn't realise that the US still had assets there, but they do. You know, I thought they'd all moved out. I don't know whether this is contractors, whether it's... Again, you know, I just genuinely thought that the US had pulled all their assets out of Iraq, but, you know, as we can see from the news, they still have air bases in there. Now, what are they doing? Who are they attacking? What are they doing there? We don't know. They're obviously there with permission of the Iraqi government, which kind of, you know, it's kind of contradictory in a lot of ways, but, you know, it is what it is. They're definitely there because they've been attacked. We've got the airlines. So airlines as well are starting to suspend flights over the Middle East. You've seen what's happened most recently. I mean, what happened? A Ukrainian flight got shot out of the sky by, I think it was the Iranians? Somebody, it was a mistake, but yeah, a Ukrainian aircraft got shot out of the sky. Obviously, you've got the MH17 that got shot out of the sky. So when these tensions flare up, no aircraft wants to be anywhere near them. So now what you've got is all aircraft diverting from around this, you know, from around the Middle East, because everybody understands that at some point missiles are going to be getting thrown left, right, and centre and everywhere. Yeah, just another article. I'll put all these in the description about what's happening. Now, here we are. Iran. So this is a statement from Iran. So Iran will respond at the right time to the killings of Hamas leader. Iran's acting foreign minister has said the country will respond to the killing of Hamas leader at the right time in the appropriate manner, following a day of intense diplomacy in the Middle East. So they're not saying they're not going to attack, but let's think of the other options that Iran have. You know, they have cyber attacks, they can do soft war, you know, they can fund their proxies a lot more, you know, and they can push on, you know, on different directions. I'm convinced that, you know, the Iranians will have, well, I suspect, it's my speculation, that the Iranians will have a lot to do with the civil unrest that's in the United Kingdom at the moment. You know, and I think that there's a lot of state actors pushing things, using online methods, using propaganda, bot farms, troll farms, fake news, all this sort of stuff. In the United Kingdom, we are being bombarded with it at the moment. And, you know, that's what our geopolitical adversaries want. They want their adversary countries tearing themselves up. And, you know, because if we tear ourselves up, they don't have to do it. So that's the reality of the situation, guys. The Middle East at the moment, it is an absolute tinderbox, you know, and it's really hot. You know, any moment now, all it's going to take is a little spark and that whole thing is going to, you know, it's just going to go up in flames. You know, the fighting's not stopped with Hamas. The fighting has not stopped with Hezbollah. The Houthis have not gone away. All this stuff in the Middle East, guys, all right, as soon as it goes, it's going to cause as soon as it starts, it will cause a regional conflict. Then you've got things like shipping, oil, energy, gas, all this sort of stuff. The price is just going to absolutely rocket, as it does when any conflict starts, because, you know, what's the first thing people try to do? Preserve themselves. So they put the prices up of everything because they don't want to sell anything, and they think, right, okay, I'm going to put my prices ridiculously high, don't want to sell anything because then I want to keep hold of the stock and try and weather this storm. And that's just what happens, guys, and history has shown us that this happens. Anyway, guys, that is me. I'm going to give you another video in the morning. Hopefully there's been no violence on the streets in the UK, and that's it, guys. I'm going to mag to grid.